We don't have much time.
And we are going live now. Yeah. And we have our first attendee.
Hello, first attendee. We have, we'll just wait for a couple of minutes, 1 minute, and then we'll start.
Anyway, this is going out on Facebook.
Yes.
So I'm sure that the number of people who will see this over a period of time will be much higher.
Yes. Shaheem, can you hear us? Okay, welcome whoever has joined this session, and just give us exactly a minute and we'll start off. We're all set for you. We're just waiting for more people to join. So where are you, Ankur? Good evening, Atria. How are you? Ankur, why don't you tell us where you are sitting out of right now? Which city are you in?
I'm in Faridabad. It's a suburb in Delhi. So that's my hometown, and that's my birthplace, my birth home. So I've been here all my life, apart from the time that I was in Dubai for about 3-4 years. And I've always worked out of Faridabad. Yes, couple of years I used to work in Hyderabad for Satyam Computers. I started my career as a software engineer. And before Three Idiots happened, that was my story. That I was forced into engineering, and then I came out with the usual suspect MBA to come out of this. So you see it at the back also. MBA was my passion to come out of that black hole of engineering. So, but I'm a software engineer and an MBA combination that you find very prevalent amongst Indians. So yeah, that's my story.
Great. And Vikram, you're in a very interesting city right now. You are in Jodhpur.
Yes.
Awesome. Great. Welcome to this panel discussion. And Shaheem, welcome to you as well. You're on mute if you want to just unmute yourself. So we're going to start off now because we have exactly 30 minutes and we have a lot to talk about. So good evening and welcome to all of you. My name is Bhakti. I'm a Senior Vice President of Institutional Partnerships at Univariety. And the topic for today is something that's very close to my heart, which is challenges and opportunities for students to explore and be future ready with a special focus on liberal arts. So yes, students and parents, we're going to talk about liberal arts today. Very quickly introducing our panel, we have Shaheem Rahiman, who's the CEO of Atria University, one of the newest and the most promising liberal arts universities in the country. We have Vikram Patel, who's the Assistant Director of Outreach at Krea University. Welcome, Vikram. And we have Ankur Vohra, who's the Head of Outreach and International Admissions at Oakridge Global University. I cannot think of a better set of people to talk about liberal arts, because when we think of liberal arts, these are the universities that automatically come to our minds. Congratulations, gentlemen, on setting up some very, very trailblazing best practices in the space of liberal arts. One of the first questions that I want to start off with, and I'm going to direct that to you, Ankur, is if you could set the tone and just sort of establish for the attendees, what is liberal arts? What does liberal arts mean?
Thank you, Bhakti. Thank you so much for inviting me here. So yeah, that's a question on everybody's mind here in India for the last, and I have worked for last almost 8 years now promoting liberal arts in India. And that's the question that we start our presentation by. Liberal arts is a philosophy of education which has its roots in ancient Greek, wherein they said if you are to be called a free man, in those days the thinking was that you are a slave, either you are a slave or you're a free man, and only free men were allowed to have education. So they felt, the ancient Greeks felt that in order to have a complete personality, you need to have basic knowledge of maths, philosophy, sociology, and there are about 8-9 subjects that they felt were relevant. Now, switch over to present day liberal arts education that we have. We are no longer slaves, so we are all free people, thankfully, in this world, and we are all driven by our goals and our passions. So what do you say about liberal arts? The first thing I want to make clear, the arts in liberal doesn't mean it will be an arts education. It has all the sciences in it. It has anything that the world can be taught through liberal arts. So it's not a liberal arts means that you're a humanities student. Liberal arts is, I will say, arts will be the skills that are appropriate for a free person. You can do anything in. So I have students who pursue computer science, physics, biology, chemistry, all these science subjects through the medium of liberal arts. So liberal arts can be a plus education. Now, in this plus education, plus your basic skills in sciences or humanities or commerce, whichever field you want to pursue, we want to give you 3 skills, and which we feel are very important for any student. One is your communication skills. How do you communicate to your anybody, any great scientist or Nobel laureate has to communicate their ideas to others. So communication skills are very important in liberal arts education. Critical thinking skills are very important that are developed through liberal arts education, and analytical skills. And the 4th skill that we feel is the soul of liberal arts education is interdisciplinarity. A student should enjoy studying maths equally well as an English subject. So there are core courses, and we can talk about those core courses at all of our universities. But basic lesson remains that to have a complete education as a passion for knowledge and love for knowledge, that is liberal arts. So that's my brief answer.
Fantastic. Okay, thank you for that, Ankur. Shaheem, there's a general belief that liberal arts does not, like Ankur just clarified for us, but there is still a general persistent belief that liberal arts does not include any science subjects, that liberal arts and humanities is the same thing. Now, we know that's a myth. So, a world that's consumed with artificial intelligence and automated processes, why should parents and students really care about liberal arts? Like, how does history or anthropology help in the age of AI and data science?
So, Bhakti, I will say as a country, we have been very liberal in the use of liberal arts in the education sector, right? Ankur rightly pointed out, there's misconception of what actually liberal arts is, right? The classical definition of liberal arts actually incorporates mathematics, incorporates logic, and incorporates natural sciences, right? I like the way Ankur earlier called out, people try to focus on the art part of liberal arts and think everything is about being arts, right? Absolutely not. It's about the flexibility. It's about the interdisciplinary. More than anything, it is a way of learning, right? We have come to a point where every problem that needs to be solved needs to be humanistic, right? Now, it so happens technology is at the forefront of helping solve or bring more efficiencies in problem solving. But at no point the humanistic approach is lost. If we start looking at global business leaders, you will quickly realize they come from diverse backgrounds, right? There is an urge for all of us to conclude that anybody who goes for tech courses, who is tech aligned, are the ones who are going to be problem solvers. That to me is absolutely wrong, right? All that it takes is look at the top 20 businesses, look at the leaders across that businesses, and you will quickly realize it is not about a tech leader. It is about solutions that are humanistic in nature. And to arrive at those solutions, technology is used as a means to achieve that. Right. To start having a humanistic approach to problem solving is what I believe a true liberal arts education will provide an individual. You start looking around you to figure out what are the genuine problems. You start thinking about solutions for a human at the center of it. And then you figure out what are the different technology, what are the different process and people that need to come together to solve the problem. I believe a liberal arts education is the best way to help students get that mindset, right? I have closely looked at what Krea does, what OP Jindal does. Some of us who have started this kind of learning, all of us have one thing in common. The first year, there's a set of foundation courses where we largely try and make the student, we attempt to make them unlearn bad habits of learning. We attempt to make them understand, explore the way of problem solving, right? Be better critical thinking, get better at design thinking, inquiry based learning, learning by doing. These are traits that we all try to instill in every student as they go through the journey. So, yeah, and whether it be artificial intelligence, like you rightly called out earlier, right? Think about latest generation, latest, I would say, in the frontier technology, CRISPR, right? Gene manipulation, gene sequencing. These are all not tech guys. These are people who's actually done a lot of analysis on gene itself, right? Completely biological in nature. But then now the tech guy is able to come in and solve the problem, because the guy who wants to solve the problem is not the tech guy. He's actually figured out there is biological patterns which can be manipulated to solve a problem. Now they are trying to figure out what is the means to solve that problem, where technology
Right,
fits.
right, right.
So with that as an example, that's how I
Great.
illustrated Bhakti.
Thanks, Shaheem. We're already getting questions, and I want to throw this one at you, Vikram. Kids are asking, is liberal arts and arts the same? And as an extension of that, and that's a very classic question, right? Arts, humanities, liberal arts, mein fark kya hai? What's the difference? And does liberal arts and sciences also include ethics? It's an extension of that question. So can you just elaborate for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think both Ankur and Shaheen has really pointed it out. Liberal arts is really more of a way of studying than really actually the course that you study, right? It's and at Krea, what we've been trying to push is we always say liberal arts and sciences, or we always use liberal education. Not to say that liberal arts is not the right way. It's a very loosely used term, right? And it's it's understandable why students can confuse it, with arts. But truly speaking, it really is a way of learning, as Mr. Shaheen said. And here the point that we give students is that look at the problems around us. I mean, the fourth industrial revolution is changing the way we live, we travel, we eat. Every company now is becoming into a tech company, right? And there's so much, how do you say, there's so much disruption happening so quickly. So for us to adapt, I mean, there is a report which says that anybody who graduates after the year 2025 will change 20 jobs across 7 different industries. So a student or a parent who's sitting at home thinking, what should I study? It's going to be so difficult for them to decide on a degree. First, they have to decide on a career, then they have to decide on the course, then they have to decide their major, minor, college. So many decisions to make, right? And if you look at the, and this is something very personal to me, Bhakti, when you look at an undergraduate education, how many of us study to be counselors? And how many of us actually do what we study in our undergraduate courses?
Oh, absolutely.
It
Yeah.
really is a foundation here, right? And why restrict? I mean, I get students so many times saying, sir, I love psychology, but I also love music. Or, I like computer science, I also like economics. Why choose? I mean, at the age of 17, 18, when you're really not sure what you want to do, liberal education gives you that opportunity where you expose yourself to, a really wide variety of subjects, multiple disciplines, multiple learning strategies, and then really do and it's not that you're a jack of trades and master of none. You do in-depth academic area, whichever one you do major in. So it
Yeah.
allows you to sort of design your degree, do a
Right.
major, but also do, like, you also study data, you also study philosophy, you also study ethics, which is such an important part, and somewhere missing from not too many people are talking about ethical decision making.
Well, That's true. I mean, as a humanities graduate myself, I wish I had the option of doing liberal arts when I was in college. But it sounds fantastic, right? That you get foundation courses and then you decide what you want to do. But Ankur, this one's for you. We're living in an environment right now where people are getting increasingly cautious, right? There's a risk aversity. People are not willing to take risks. They want to be more secure about what future they want to foresee for themselves. And so what would you tell parents and students? Because the fact is that, a lot of perception about liberal arts is that it leads to, what career does a liberal arts degree lead to? I mean, and that's not something that there's a lot of clarity about, as opposed to say, if I studied economics, I would end up doing a specific career. I would end up taking a specific career, but liberal arts, what can we do with liberal arts? So there is still a lot of confusion about what career options exist after a student studies liberal arts.
Thank you, Bhakti, for that question. I think I agree with Vikram and his thought process, and even Mr. Shaheem, that liberal arts or any undergraduate degree is just a foundation to what we do across. I know for a fact in India, across masters is a requirement majorly in any jobs. There are very few jobs there where you can, from an undergrad degree, you can go straight away go to corporate job, a high paying corporate job. There are those job kind of opportunities, but from a perspective, from a larger context, that is what I see. And I worked in very good organization. I'm currently working in one of the top liberal arts institutions. Previously also I used to work in a very good university for liberal arts, and we have seen across it that the undergraduate degree is like a step towards the next step, which will be your yes, you can have a 2 years of experience, but master's degree definitely is a must as we move forward in careers. With regards to what kind of careers you can have, as I said, we are not, liberal arts doesn't mean that you are going to study only arts. So I have in my university, you can pursue economics straight away, a BA honors in economics, not the liberal arts way. And you can also do a major in economics via liberal arts. So what is the difference? There is no difference apart from the pedagogy of teaching economics in a very different aspect to in a plain simple BA honors economics program. So if a student appreciates the philosophy of liberal arts, he wants to have that interdisciplinarity, he wants to take an year or year 1.5 to decide on a major. Liberal arts is a way. If you are from year 1 decided that I want to pursue economics, I only want to do economic subjects, and that is, go for it, then you are going for economics. So the career options are open for all aspects, but I'll say again that the undergraduate degree is not going to give you the platform for a high paying corporate jobs majority of the times. I'm not ruling it out, but definitely in Indian higher education context, that is what I have seen. With regards to the rush for science programs and engineering programs that we were referring to. I am a software engineer. I was just talking to you in the initial remarks that I worked as a software engineer. That was not my calling. And then again, what I did in my 4 years of engineering, I use nothing today because technology becomes obsolete. This Moore's law, that the number of microchips on a transistor, on a microchips double every 2 years. So that means the technology is far evolving every 2 years than what you can learn today. So that is something. So basic skills, the analytical skills, the critical thinking skills, the communication skills, those are the skills that are the resilience to adapt to different situations is what we teach in liberal arts. And that's a byproduct of your that's what I said in my initial remarks. That's a plus education. Along with your subject knowledge, you will also learn these 3 skills. So that's my take on career.
Sure. I mean, but if we were to sort of give very specific examples of, because you've all spent so much time in the liberal arts education field, if you could give specific examples, any of you gentlemen feel free to jump in. What are some of the kinds of careers or fields that you've seen students go into very successfully after pursuing a liberal arts education? Yeah, go ahead, Shah. Go ahead. Yeah.
So I'll try this with a social example, right? All of us in this group here, right? I'm an engineer, undergrad. Ankur, I think you mentioned you're also an engineer in undergrad.
Yes, I'm also an engineer. Yeah, undergrad.
Vikram?
Yeah, I studied computer science too.
Bhakti?
Well, you're heading liberal arts universities. I'm
So I'll
asking
tell you something.
you.
I'll tell you something, right? So we are all, if you ask me, I'll confidently stand on any platform and say the most wasteful 4 years of my life, where I felt I learned the least, is my undergrad program. Right? I can stand up anywhere and proclaim this. Right? It's been over 2 decades since then. And I've come to realize the undergrad program is so restrictive in what we are trying to teach.
Yeah.
We all conclusively agree that there is very little of it that we are using right now. I've used what I have gained in that 4 undergrad years is a lot of life skills, by the way, but nothing related to my job, what I'm using right now, right? Now, liberal arts is our way of trying to break that mold. We don't want students to go into undergrad program and 4 years from now say that is the most wasteful part of their life. I personally would have loved to experience all these options. I would have loved to understand how to identify a problem right in front of my eyes, right? Coming out of my undergrad program. Yeah, you don't have to solve the world's biggest problems. You could actually look one block away from your home and see there is an irrigation problem that you can solve, or there is a sewage problem that you can solve, right? So it's just the learning mindset, learning process that needs to change. And that's why I think all of us coming together, almost everywhere, the liberal arts institutes are actually headed by people who have done technology or some other, but not B.Ed. Earlier on, you asked B.Ed, BA Economics, B.Tech. That is very straightforward. The people who take those degrees have a straightforward career. If you think hard, no, they don't. How many of the B.Ed folks are currently on this table or running an education institute?
So,
How many of
Bhakti,
how many of the tech leaders, organizations that are leading tech organizations are led by engineers?
Well, Shaheem, then that brings me to another question, right? I'm sorry, this is not a part of the plan, but it just brings me to the question of, does it
Bhakti,
take a specific kind of student or kind of mindset to really take up liberal arts? And I think, Vikram, I can see from your face that you have an answer for that. So why don't you go ahead?
so I want to finish. I want to finish the last answer.
Go for it.
And let me be a little bit more specific than I mean, Ankur and Shaheen did really try to bring up what I
Yeah.
also want to say. But even being a little bit more specific, right? Like I did computer science. Now I studied PHP, SQL, Java, microprocessing, all of those things that we all have to study, right? Now, given an option, so all of those, as Ankur said, technologies evolve. Every 6 months, your degree is not valid. You have to go for an on-job training. Now, I've come from that background. There's another student who's gone and done a BSc in computer science along with psychology and along with sociology as a minor and a concentration, right? Now, a Google would want to hire a user experience engineer or a user experience designer, somebody who understands people, somebody who can communicate, and somebody who's averagely aware of the technology, right? Because obviously, I'm going to train all of you on job. Who would you pick? So these are more obvious answers that we are coming up with, right? And it's not that, I mean, you can get into not-for-profit sector, you can get into the social sector, you can become an entrepreneur, you can become a performing artist. There's so much government jobs.
Yeah.
Andhra Pradesh government hires so many people in policy, and there are over and over, so many more examples that are coming up in speaking of this. But
Absolutely.
to getting to your question of who's the student, well, I think all of us, Bhakti, we are, sort of, when you talk of it, we take very few students compared to what India has to offer. I
Yeah.
mean, Krea is just 2 years old, and we get like thousands of applications for a few hundred seats. And
Yeah.
that's true of, I think, all the institutions
All
here,
of
right?
them. Yes. Everybody here is getting more applications than they can
Absolutely.
handle.
So
Yes.
who we're looking for usually is student who can adapt to an environment like this. Like, somebody who's and I know a lot of admissions counselors would use this term holistic applications, holistic admissions, holistic profiles. What do we mean? What do we mean by holistic? is somebody who's definitely good in academics, right? And when I say academics, we don't just judge academics from your marks of your 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, right? It's also academics also comes from the essays that you submit us.
Yeah.
Academics also comes by the way you solve case studies, the way you present your ideas, the way you think. So when we say academics, it's that. And along with academics, somebody who has a passion for other things, somebody who is definitely creative, somebody who can collaborate with people, sort of is like a big picture thinker who's wanting to connect the dots, so I'll tell you the basic differences, right? That there are professional degrees and there are universities like Oxford, which is for years have gone ahead to become the best institutions of the country. What's the difference? And one of the articles I read said that people who go to Oxford don't go there for jobs. They go there to push the humanity forward. It's a very philosophical answer. But really, we are looking at students who want to not just get a job. I mean, you can get a job by doing a 6-month course. It will get you a job. I mean, we are not preparing you for just placements, right? We're preparing you for careers, giving you answers a little early than some of us have got. So I hope that answers a little bit.
It does. And
May
gentlemen,
I add
yes.
there, right?
Yeah, sure. We just one thing. We have 4 minutes to go. So Shaheem, after you're done, I have one last question, and then we'll have to wrap it. Go ahead, Shaheem.
See, we're being unfair to the students. If the question you asked, who is okay, who is liberal, what type of students they best fit, right? We're being unfair to them. We as a society have actually put them in a 3-year cycle from 9th to 12th of feeding them a way of learning and saying that this is what's going to define your success, right? Large number of them are natural learners, problem solvers. We stopped them from doing it. We said, stop doing everything, start doing at this book, start taking tests, try to figure out how quickly you can solve problems that were already solved before, right? And you teach them and they get high scores and they're in a different, suddenly they're learning differently or their definition of learning has changed. So I think as a society, we owe it, all of us owe it to the society to change that mindset. I'm happy to see how Krea, O.P. Jindal, us and Ashoka, a lot of us, we have changed the admission process. We are not looking at those scores. We are actually trying to understand the student itself. And Vikram called out, it's not just the academic score. It is the aptitude and the appetite of the student that we are looking at the admission process, right? So hopefully there will be more of us who will collectively help change the directives.
Absolutely. And gentlemen, I'm going to wrap up this very quick but very interesting discussion with the last question to Ankur. Ankur, there are Oakridgers watching and they're going to watch, there are more Oakridgers going to watch this panel discussion. What are the skills that you think a student needs to develop to deal with the times to come?
For us, Bhakti, for our liberal arts school, as I said, basic skills like analytical skills, critical thinking skills, communication skills, these are basic things. And one of the things that is missing these days is, reading skills. People are more involved in Netflix and Amazon Prime that they forget reading as a habit. And you will be surprised. I conduct a lot of interviews for JGU, and I come across brilliant students, but they do not read. And if I ask them to write a 1,000-word SOP or a 500-word SOP, they fail at it and they're not very good at it. So basic skills like reading, writing, analytical, those are the kind of skills that we should have. So that's my basic request to them. And as Vikram said, we want in our liberal arts schools people who probably are not only looking for a job, and that is, he rightly said it, that you can do a 6 months certificate program and probably get a job in IT. What we are looking for are big thinking individuals, big problem solvers who can understand the world that they live in, who have a passion for knowledge, who want to learn in a certain way, because all of us in liberal arts believe in experiential learning. So there is a different technique to teaching in liberal arts. They have small classroom sizes, experiential learning, more internships, more on the field experiences. So if somebody is open to those kind of ideas, liberal arts is the field for you. If you are very well sure that you want to pursue something in a certain subject, then good for you. There are all kind of students, and I do a lot of interviews They will tell me, sir, I don't know what I'm good at. I want to take my time for 1.5 years and then pursue it. Some of them are sure of what they want. Some of them will say, sir, I want to do psychology. So I'll say, why don't you do psychology from traditional public university 3 years? No, but I want to do it in liberal arts frame. So that's a change that I am seeing, that people are now selecting liberal arts. The students are now more selecting, and all of my panelists mentioned we have more applications than what we have in seats. So that's a beautiful trend, and I think liberal arts is here to stay in India. There is a huge appetite, and people are going to take it up. And more power to liberal arts colleges. Many of them should come up, and we should, revolutionize. And Indian higher education needs this kind of positive energy and new reimagination of education that a lot of our universities are doing today.
I think that's a beautiful note to end on. And gentlemen, I'm so dissatisfied with the 30 minutes. I have so many more things to ask you. And I think I'm going to ask all of you back for another webinar that we'll do separately, but we have to do it. There's so much more. Atria, I know you have a bunch of questions. I would really suggest if you can go on to Krea, Atria, or OP Jindal's, individual sessions and ask those questions. I know you have questions, they will be answered. But there is a keynote coming up from UC Santa Cruz, David Joyner. So we're going to leave it here. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
And we're going to all emulate Ankur and do namaste. Thank you so much. Just leave your one-on-one session links here if you want, and we will all see you soon. Thank you, gentlemen, once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bhakti. Thank you. Bye.